So the FCC chairman, Ajit Pai, says his children are being harassed over net neutrality. This is according to the Washington Post. After proposing to dismantle net neutrality rules and setting off a firestorm of criticism, Ajit Pai, the chairman of the Federal Communications Commission, said his family has become the target of harassment. During an interview Monday on Fox and Friends, viewers were shown cardboard signs that host Steve Doocy said were up at Pai's home in suburban Virginia. Appearing to refer to Pai's children, they read, "They will come to know the truth. Dad murdered democracy in cold blood." Pai said those signs crossed a line. Even as he noted the charged debate over net neutrality, he said, "I understand that people are passionate about policy, but the one thing in America that should remain sacred is that families, wives, and kids should remain out of it and stop harassing us at our homes." Could not agree more, but that's the state of politics today. So if you have a disagreement over policy, if the FCC chairman wants to change policy because he believes in free markets more, well, he's murdering democracy in cold blood. Really? And then he has to be harassed at his home. Oh, just more Beyond Reason politics out there. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I am your host, Michael Yaffee, the voice of reason in a world that is beyond reason. We are on till 10 p.m. tonight, right here on News Radio 102.5 WFLA, still on 540 a.m., of course. If you miss any of the show, you can catch the podcast anywhere podcasts are available. Make sure to like the Beyond Reason Radio Facebook page because we're on Facebook Live as well. I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. I had a pretty, relaxed, chill Thanksgiving with the family. I did not do any Black Friday shopping. Mm-hmm. We have Mr. Tom Benson, who is producing tonight as well. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was very filling.
Filling? You told me you couldn't go as crazy this year, though.
No, I had my annual physical the day after Thanksgiving, not Black Friday.
Who plans their annual physical the day after Thanksgiving? Who does this?
Oh, yours truly did. It was my fault, But that's all right.
Beyond reason.
That's all right. When the weight was up a little bit, I had an excuse. I said, "Hey, it's unfair to weigh somebody the day after Thanksgiving." But everything was all right.
That's good.
Getting back to Chairman Pai and his house, why? I don't understand why the police just can't block off his block. Put up some barricades there and keep the people out.
Well, I guess they can. Maybe they put up the signs beforehand. Mm. Maybe they'll have to do that eventually. But the fact that it's come to this, and this isn't the first time something like this has happened. You have disagreements in policy, but that's the state of politics today.
Sure.
You can't just disagree with the president. You can't disagree with the administration and policy difference and fight in the battle of ideas. You have to protest. You have to yell. You have to believe Trump is Hitler and he's destroying America and all this stuff. And then of course, if you believe that he's really killing democracy, then you feel like it's your duty to go after his children, I guess.
Everything is black and white. There's no gray anymore. You realize that?
Yes.
Gee whiz.
That is very true. Speaking of black, did you do any Black Friday shopping?
On Saturday we did.
That doesn't count.
We did Black Saturday stuff. No, I didn't do it. I didn't go near a mall on Friday.
Can I tell you, I noticed a lot of the deals, they kind of extend after Friday.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
People that have to go right away, I don't know if it's really as worth it as much as it used to be.
And now I've seen some people advertise on through emails and online, Cyber Day week-long bargains.
Yeah, it's because they had Cyber Monday deals, but I noticed on Amazon a lot of the Cyber Monday deals were good on Black Friday, and they're extending throughout the week.
Yeah.
Now, there were some Cyber Monday deals that I almost wanted to get into because they were really good. And I think Cyber Monday is better than Black Friday. I think it's going to overtake it for sure.
A couple of interesting tidbits I came across was the fact that I shouldn't say a lot, many people went to the stores to do some browsing, then went online to actually make a purchase.
Well, that's, and this is a whole other topic we could get into maybe later in the show. That's an issue a lot of the brick and mortar stores have had for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Best Buy struggled with that for a long time.
Yeah.
Because people would go to Best Buy, they would shop, they would try out all the devices in the store, and then they would go home and buy it online.
Sure.
So the stores that would do well with that would be Apple, because Apple controls what it costs in the store, and online it's the same, so there's really no difference. Best Buy, though, would have trouble. So what Best Buy did is they started renting out spaces in their store as showrooms. So you notice you go in there now, there's a Windows section, there's a Samsung section, there's an Apple section. Well, those companies pay for that so that they were able to kind of retain some money that way. But they struggled for a long time because of that issue, because people would find it cheaper online.
I also read that somewhere along the line, I read where 29% of purchases on Friday were made on cell phones and mobile devices. This year, it's up to almost 40%.
It's more?
More, much more.
I know. I think the Amazon Echo and the Google Home are going to be the big ones this year as well.
Yeah.
So, good stuff. Well, speaking of, your mobile devices, your Amazon, Alexa, and all that stuff, the big topic I've noticed this week, at least on social media, I feel like it doesn't get all the attention on the networks as much as I would think. And I think that's because it's not always as easy to explain to people. A lot of people don't understand it. But that topic is net neutrality. I've seen a lot of debate on my social media about this. A lot of people who are very upset that the Trump administration and the FCC chairman wants to get rid of the Obama net neutrality rules. They think it will be, like that one protester said, the end of democracy or whatever, which I think is a little extreme.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go over a little bit about net neutrality and what I think and some of the different debates here. I mean, just looking on Wikipedia, if you wanted the general definition of what net neutrality is, according to Wikipedia, it says net neutrality is the principle that internet service providers must treat all data on the internet the same and not discriminate or charge differently by user, content, website, platform, application, type of attached equipment, or method of communication. For instance, under these principles, internet service providers are unable to intentionally block, slow down, or charge money for specific websites and online content. So when I go on social media, this is usually where the sides line. This is where people notice, because the proponents of net neutrality believe the government needs to make it fair, needs to make it equal for everyone, because they don't trust business. Mm-hmm. They don't trust the big business companies. They don't trust the telecom companies. They think that those internet service providers are going to screw us, because that's what big business does. They need that overbearing government regulation. And what they're really afraid of is that those businesses, those telecom companies, will start censoring speech on the internet, or censoring content on the internet. Of course, what about the other side of that? It's funny how this is another one of these issues where it really depends on what you believe is the role of government and who you trust more, business, the private sector, or government and government regulations. Most leftists out there, they don't trust the companies. They think the companies, because they're greedy, they're selfish, all that stuff, all the usual stuff you hear about free markets and why you need more government involved, will use this as an excuse to charge people. It'll cost way too much to get on the internet. They'll charge the internet, the content providers too much, and that will be passed on to the consumer and all of this stuff. And then they're going to start blocking speech and blocking content and yada, yada, yada. But the other side of it, and because I'm a conservative, I'm a limited government conservative, I have a healthy distrust of government regulations and bureaucracies. What they don't understand is they're afraid of these companies blocking content. But what net neutrality does is it gives a lot of power to the federal government, because it basically treats the internet now as a utility, like it does for electric companies and gas companies. They want to treat the internet the same way. Mm-hmm. In order to do that, through the net neutrality rules, it gives a lot of power to the federal government. But these people are not afraid of the federal government censoring anything, censoring content, censoring speech. But there is an argument to be made that this could give the government power to do that in the future.
Sure.
Now, I think most of it is unnecessary, the net neutrality rules, because for one, it was put in place in 2015. Mm-hmm. The internet was doing pretty good before 2015. It's not really...
I can't recall any difference from 2014 to 2015 when it went into effect, as far as the internet's concerned at my house, or here at work.
Here's the thing. Here is where it gets to a lot of how it goes. what it is there's a lot more content on the internet now. What the internet companies, what the internet service providers would like to do is to be able to create quote-unquote fast lanes in the bandwidth. So you have your big content providers that take up a lot of the bandwidth, a lot of the room on these lanes on the internet. What they would like to do is be able to, hey, if you pay, if you're Netflix or Google or whatever, you could pay us a little bit more, and your content will be prioritized through what's called an express lane. So you don't have the issues of things slowing down. And to me, that seems like a win because most of the customers are going to use that content, so they're going to like it. The content providers like Netflix or whatever, they're going to like it because they're going to be able to get it to more customers faster and better. And the internet service providers are going to like it because they'll have more money now to invest in new broadband infrastructure, which they would like to be able to do. And some believe that having net neutrality gets rid of that.
Express lanes on the internet. It almost sounds like the express lanes on I-4 that they're building. Pay a little more and go a little faster.
Well, and it's funny, a lot of people, you have express lanes for all kinds of things.
Sure.
Even postal service, you can pay an extra fee to get it faster. A lot of that, the U.S. Postal Service regulated by the government, but FedEx is really unregulated. UPS is very unregulated, yet they seem to do pretty well. Why? Because the free market usually works these things out. They work it out through competition. I've read some noted economists who believe that any concerns people have over getting rid of net neutrality, that it would slow down content or create higher prices, all that, are really unfounded because competition would prevent that. And this would actually be a benefit because it would allow more innovation in the internet, in the broadband services. And I agree with that. Usually competition, and they also talk about, we're going to play the interview with the FCC chairman. We're going to go through that in the next segment. But one thing he talks about is if anything gets too monopolistic, there's already the FTC that takes care of that. The one issue is some of these internet companies seem to have a monopoly in certain areas. I would love to be able to get rid of those monopolies. And the way you do that is you allow more competition in those areas. It's very simple. But because I'm a limited government guy, I have more distrust for the federal government and the power of the federal government than I do of these private companies and the private sector. Because of that, I tend to agree with this FCC chairman. We don't need net neutrality. And I think a lot of the concerns that it's going to take away freedom, it's going to censor content and speech, I really think that's unfounded. I think if a company did acted poorly, that's why you have competition, and you have also the court of public opinion and all that stuff that will get in the way of them being able to do too much of that. But this is a big debate for a lot of people.
Sure.
A lot of people think that the government should be heavily involved in this to keep it fair.
And it's coming up for a vote next month.
Yeah,
in
coming
December.
up for a vote in the FCC. So,
and the thing is, there's 3 Republicans and 2 Democrats, so guess which way it's going to go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and Trump's been, pretty much on board with getting rid of the rules as well.
Sure.
Well, we'll see what happens, but most of what I've seen, most of the debate is it falls down the usual lines. If you tend to be a lot more distrustful of business, a lot more distrustful of the telecom companies, a lot more distrustful of the market, then you're going to support net neutrality. Of course you are. You believe the state would be better at running this kind of stuff. But if you're like me, you're much more distrustful of the federal government and the power and how regulations can stifle innovation, then of course you're not going to support net neutrality. It's the usual line. So it usually kind of depends where your ideology already is. So very interesting stuff. I hope that made a lot of sense. There's still a lot of stuff. I mean, there's so many other different angles to this as well. I was reading, and I didn't know this until this week, but I was reading that Google, they have like a separate network in a lot of areas. And then they attach to the ISPs through an internet exchange point. But in their own network, they already do a lot of the prioritizing that getting rid of net neutrality would allow in the ISPs. So Google is really not affected by this because they have their own networks that they can do whatever they want. and then they go to these internet exchange points and connect that way. Mm-hmm. So that's why they don't, they say, oh, we support net neutrality because they can get around it. But so very convenient. That was a whole other angle I didn't even know.
Well, a lot of the companies that support net neutrality also support climate change. So they just do it for political reasons.
Well, and Comcast actually came out, because originally Comcast was against net neutrality. Mm-hmm. But Comcast came out and said they're for net neutrality, and it's just, like you said, the biggest reason why they come out publicly is because politics. It looks good politically to a lot of people to say, I'm for an open and free internet. When you use these buzzwords and you use these political buzzwords, of course you're going to come out and say, oh, net neutrality sounds great. But behind the scenes, Comcast would love to be able to work on things to be able to better it for their customers. And we have to remember, that's what they want to do. They want to provide the best service for their customers that they can. It's what's in their interest. Their interest isn't, getting rid of content. Their interest is making money, and they want to do that by providing the best service for their customers. All right, 407-916-5400. Text to 23680 if you have any comments on net neutrality, if you agree or disagree with me. We'll talk more about this, and we'll hear from the FCC chairman. I have some audio of that as well. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
If you miss any of the show, you can download the Beyond Reason podcast on iTunes. Safe space for conservative thought, not for political correctness. Yaffee is back right now.
407-916-5400. You can also text 23680. Make sure to like the Beyond Reason Radio Facebook page as well if you want to check out the show there. If you miss any of the show, check out the podcast anywhere podcasts are available. So we've been talking about net neutrality. It's been a big issue, especially on social media, at least that I've noticed. And I gave you my thoughts and I gave you the different sides of the debate. I wanted to get into this interview that was on Fox News a few days ago with the FCC chairman. And he goes through all the different points, and it was done by Steve Doocy. You'll hear him. And I thought Steve actually asked some pretty good questions and talked about a lot of the concerns. So to try to get the real understanding of why the administration wants to get rid of net neutrality. And remember, it's only been around for a couple of years. It's only been around since 2015. It's not like, the internet, it was this revolutionary that if we get rid of it, all these things are going to crash. It wasn't even around before 2015, and the internet was doing pretty well even before then. So let's play this interview here with the FCC chairman, Ajit Pai, and Steve Doocy, and we'll go through it and talk about it. Here it is.
I've been reading online. You're out to break the internet. What are you doing?
All we are simply doing is putting engineers and entrepreneurs instead of bureaucrats and lawyers back in charge of the internet. So these rules were imposed 2 years ago, and they're inspired by 1930s Great Depression era regulations. And what we want to do is return to the free market consensus that started in the Clinton administration and that served the internet economy in America very well for many years.
Okay, what I have read.
So, and he basically is making the point that I was making at the top of the hour. Usually where you side on this issue, it depends on what you think of the free market of business versus government. If you trust government to be involved in this stuff more, you're all for net neutrality. If you trust the free market and businesses to work out these things more, then you're going to be against net neutrality. And he was saying he's siding more with the free market, which I do as well. All right, he continues on here.
Online is some of your critics are saying, look, if they do that and let the free enterprise figure things out, they're going to wind up charging people more money for the service right now that is, for the most part, equal to everybody.
Number one, that is false. That's not the internet economy we had from 1996 until 2015 when these rules were imposed. There was nothing broken about the internet before 2015. And going forward, if a company acts in an anti-competitive way, the Federal Trade Commission is expressly empowered to protect competition and consumers. So I think that's a false fear.
But you know the possibility that when the free market system comes into play, somebody's going to come up with a great idea where if you pay extra, you get really fast internet. And some people who don't have it are going to go, hey, why do they get that and I don't?
Well, in some cases, you can imagine that kind of arrangement being pro-competitive, being good for startups and consumers. And in other cases, it might not be so worthwhile. And that's exactly why the Federal Trade Commission is the better agency to investigate it. They have a long tradition of investigating anti-competitive conduct, and I think they'll be very well positioned to take action if necessary.
Okay, stop right there. So, when you listen to him, he has a pretty reasonable approach. I don't feel like he's going to kill democracy there when you listen to him. I mean, the protesters are saying he's killing democracy. I don't sense that when he talks here, but I think he's right. And it's weird when people talk about, you'll pay more for faster internet. Don't we already do that now? I mean, you can pay more for faster speeds at your regular internet service providers now.
Sure.
So I'm not quite sure what that's all about. Now, I think if there's going to be a changing in the pricing structure, most of it's going to be on the other side of it, not for their consumers on our side, but it's going to be on charging these big companies who want faster lanes, the so-called express lanes on the bandwidth. They're going to charge them, and it'll give the internet service providers more chance to make more money that way. I think if there would be any changes, I think that's where most of the changes would go. I don't think we, as the consumer, would really notice a difference.
Suppose you bought something from Amazon and you have the choice of whether to get it overnight, 2 days, or ground in 4 or 5 days. It's the same concept.
Yeah,
it
really is.
Whatever you want to really pay for. Now, a lot of people who get it overnight are members of the Amazon Prime service, which costs, I think, $99 a year. But there's other benefits that go along with that make it worthwhile.
Yeah, and, one of my friends on Facebook said, you'll still be able to get your news on the internet, but you'll have to pay more, or you'll have to pay for it to get it. And I was thinking, well, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the Orlando Sentinel, Financial Times, you already have to pay a subscription fee.
Right, you got to pay
for them. Yeah. So, I mean, most of it, like I said, if you distrust the companies and distrust the free market, which the left does, of course, then of course you're going to be all for government control of this stuff.
And I think a lot of people who, grew up during the 90s and the early years of this decade, this century rather, are used to things free online. And that's slowly but surely coming to an end with a lot of things.
Well, yeah, because they have to figure out a way to make money. There's only a couple ways to make money online. You either have to charge a fee or you have ads. It's like anything else. So, and they should be able to do that. What if the government came in and said, New York Times, you can no longer charge a fee online for your subscription? I mean, I would be against that.
And they'd go out of business.
Yeah. So there you go. All right. He continues on in this interview.
This is a hot topic online for obvious reasons. What do your critics get wrong about this?
Well, number one, they completely ignore the fact that this is of history, that we had a free and open internet before these regulations started, that there was a bipartisan consensus that started with President Clinton and extended through 2 successive administrations. And number two, they greatly overstate the fears about what the internet will look like going forward. So I think that they also ignore that we need much more investment in networks and infrastructure to get these businesses to take the risks to build these networks, especially in rural and low-income America. You need to have light-touch, market-based regulation, not micromanagement from Washington, D.C.
I was reading.
Stop right there. So the left is saying, well, they're not going to invest anyway. This isn't going to change anything. I think he makes a good point. Usually when you have over-government regulation, it can stifle innovation and prevent investment in those areas. I agree with him. All right, he continues on.
One item online that said before the Obama administration imposed all these rules a couple of years ago, the people behind the internet, the private industry, had invested something like $1.5 trillion. But then with all the regulations, it's like, hey, we're backing off. We don't know what's coming.
That's exactly right. And it's no surprise that some of these network operators are starting to look to invest in other industries, content, and even investing abroad. To the extent that the rules here in the United States make it more difficult to build a business case for investing in networks, the less likely we'll see investment in those networks. And that leaves folks who are on the wrong side of the digital divide even worse off.
So that was the interview. If you wanted a better idea of where he was coming from, I mean, I don't know about you, Tom Benson, but when I listen to him, it doesn't sound like he's going to destroy democracy with this. I don't know. Does he really need to be attacked as home for this?
I think they're going to, some people making those charges are just going to an extreme. to get attention.
A lot of the criticism of this is very, very extreme. And, we'll see what happens. It looks like it's going to be, with the way the administration is now, it looks like the net neutrality rules are going to be repealed. I really don't think these internet service providers are going to really start blocking content like a lot of the threats are. It's going to change a lot of pricing structures on the other side, which could be a good thing. Mm-hmm. And through competition, it could be settled. So we'll see what happens there. All right, speaking of another debate that's going on in the world of politics, of course, we have tax reform. Yes, tax reform is going through the Senate now. It already went through the House. We'll see. It just seems like a long road to try to get to tax reform to be passed. So we'll talk about that. Rand Paul came out and said he supports the Senate bill, and we'll play the audio from him saying why and take your calls as well. 407-916-5400, text to 23680. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
If you heart Beyond Reason Radio, listen to the Beyond Reason Radio podcast on iHeartRadio. Just download the iHeartRadio app and search Beyond Reason Radio. The place where we talk faith, culture, and politics. Beyond Reason Radio continues.
Senate Republicans have shoved the tax bill ahead, and now the fight goes to spending cuts. This is according to Reuters. U.S. Senate Republicans rammed forward President Donald Trump's tax bill on Tuesday in an abrupt partisan committee vote that set up a full vote by the Senate as soon as Thursday, although some details of the measure remain unsettled. Republican committee members quickly left the room after the vote as Democrats complained about a lack of discussion on a bill that would overhaul the U.S. tax code and add an estimated $1.4 trillion to the $20 trillion national debt over 10 years. That's, of course, according to the CBO. The Republicans argue against a lot of that because they believe it will help the economy much more, which will increase revenue, yada, yada, yada. Republicans are hurrying to move their complex tax legislation forward, hoping to avoid the protracted infighting that doomed their effort to repeal Obamacare. Welcome back to Beyond Reason Radio. I wanted to get into this whole debate over the tax cuts. The Senate is working on their tax cut bill. The House has already passed their version of it. And from some experts I've talked to, they are not sure this thing's actually going to pass. It might get to the Senate, but final bill might not pass. There's just, the Senate is so close, it's so divided, and all you need is 3-4 Republicans to vote against it.
2, really, I hear.
Yeah, and that kind of dooms it. Now, one person who they were concerned about in the beginning was Rand Paul, because Rand Paul has voted against other bills, including their version of Obamacare repeal and all of that, and that caused some problems. So they were really afraid he was going to vote against this one in the end. But he actually came out and supported it. And he had an op-ed today, but he also had a video he put out of why he supports this tax cut bill, and I thought it was pretty interesting. Go ahead and play that for me, Tom.
Hi, this is Senator Rand Paul with an update from Washington. One of Washington's biggest problems is thinking the money you make belongs to the government. I believe it's the other way around. The money you earn belongs to you, and government should have to justify why it should take it from you. That's why I'm pleased to see the Senate moving this week to pass a tax cut. I have been a loud voice for tax cuts for everyone. The tax plan writers and President Trump have listened. The current tax plan calls for a $1.5 trillion tax cut, and it includes a repeal of the Obamacare individual mandate. The bill's not perfect. I would have preferred a larger tax cut and to keep deductions for state and local taxes. But this bill is better today because I fought for and received major changes to prevent a tax increase on the middle class. The next few weeks in Washington will be important. Will we keep our word and cut taxes? Will we do what we campaigned on and repeal the Obamacare mandate? I will fight for both, and I look forward to ending the year keeping this important promise to the American people to give them a tax cut, a well-deserved tax cut.
So he came out in support of it, and I agree with a lot of what he said. The money doesn't belong to the government. It belongs to you. It's your money. So this idea of that you have to The government needs to take more of it to pay for all these social programs. Obviously, Rand Paul is against that. The biggest problem, though, I have with all of this is, as much as I want tax cuts, and I think getting rid of the corporate income tax, we're not getting rid of it, but cutting that to 20% and cutting a lot of the pass-through taxes that small businesses use, that is really what will help the economy. Because even with these individual tax cuts, I like the House plan better than the Senate version because it simplifies the tax code more, puts it down to 4 brackets, which I think is needed. The Senate has like 7 brackets. But really, what really Congress should be focusing on right now, more than anything, in my opinion, and they won't, because politically it's not popular to do, but really what Congress should be focusing on right now, more than anything, in my opinion, is spending cuts. The spending is out of control in Washington, D.C., and with spending out of control, it's going to cause major problems to our economy in the future. And while tax cuts are good and it will help the economy, I don't believe these tax cuts are going to make up enough to avoid deficits in the future. You're still going to have spending cuts, and it doesn't seem like Congress is really serious about that. In fact, there was some proof, and Bud actually pointed this out this morning and pointed it out to me, and I think he's exactly right on this. There's proof that shows that the Senate's really not interested in spending cuts. I mean, they're talking about doing some spending, and the Democrats are already threatening a government shutdown over the little amount of spending cuts that are already there. Imagine if we could actually get serious about these spending cuts, but I don't think it's going to happen. But according to the Associated Press yesterday, it says Senate Republicans are considering a trigger that would automatically increase taxes if their sweeping legislation fails to generate as much revenue as they expect. It's an effort to mollify deficit hawks who worry that the tax cut for businesses and individuals will add to the nation's already mounting debt. And Bud pointed this out this morning, and I agree with him. Notice what it does. So if they don't give it as much revenue, it automatically triggers what? It doesn't trigger spending cuts, which is what we should focus on more than anything, because the government is spending way too much money. That's where most of the problem is here. So instead of triggering spending cuts, the politicians in D.C. don't want to do that. This is going to trigger tax increases. It just shows the mindset and how backwards it is in Washington, D.C. on this. But I think the real problem right now, I think we should really focus more on spending cuts, even more than tax cuts. But for the most part, I seem to like the tax cut plan, especially on the business side. Now, the CBO came out today or this week, and they've been pointing out something that's a little misleading. They say that this tax cut plan in the Senate will actually hurt the poor more in the future. That they'll actually kind of see a tax increase out of this tax cut bill. Now, is that because their rates go up? No. In fact, the poorest Americans really don't pay they really don't pay any taxes for the most part. They get more benefits back than they pay in. But they're saying that the repeal of the Obamacare mandate is actually a tax increase, which it's not, but that's what they're saying. And there's a big reason for this. I had an interesting story here from the American Enterprise Institute where he points out, he said, why would anyone view the repeal of a tax, because that's what the individual mandate is. They consider it a tax. So you're repealing that tax, and they're saying that somehow means it's a tax increase. Seems kind of backwards, right? He says, because this repeal would increase tax revenue, the revenue pickup is also a major reason the Finance Committee added the repeal to the bill. The Congressional Budget Office estimates that the repeal of the individual mandate would prompt 13 million people to stop buying health insurance by 2027. So some of those people would end up paying additional taxes because they would no longer receive the premium tax credits offered for insurance bought on the exchanges. So because of a choice they make not to buy insurance, They say, oh, this means it's a tax increase. It hurts the poor, the usual stuff. Even though if they choose not to, then they don't have to pay the penalty. And a lot of people out there that are paying the penalty now will no longer have to pay the penalty. So that'll be a tax cut for a lot of those people. So there you go. It's a little misleading how all of this ended up. It says here, the additional tax payments do not constitute a burden on the affected households. If a household continues to buy health insurance after the tax is repealed, then the household's tax treatment and its well-being are unchanged. So it clearly faces no tax increase. So a little bit of an accounting gimmick by the CBO to try to say it's going to hurt the poor, when really, not really. It's not how this works. So interesting stuff. If you want to comment on the tax cut plan, you can 407-916-5400. Text to 23680. In the next segment, I have to go over some sad news.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Something that just you might shed a tear.
It's going to bring a tear to our eye, huh?
Yeah, it could break your hearts out there. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
It would be beyond reason not to listen to Yaffee on your TuneIn Radio app. Download the app today and search Beyond Reason Radio. Your voice of truth in a world of fake news. Beyond Reason Radio continues right now.
Yes, this is Orlando Smart Talk Radio. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. I'm a little choked up here, Tom Benson, because we have some sad news. I know. We'll try to hold it. We'll try to keep it together here. I don't know how we can go on. Keith Olbermann, yes, who used to be on MSNBC.
And now, ESPN.
Now he does this thing for GQ, his videos. He's calling it quits.
Oh, no.
He's leaving politics, he says, for good. Keep it together, Mike. Yes, Keith Olbermann. You know, the guy who's just loves Trump, you know. They're just best friends.
Trump, huh? He's a guy who's angry at everything.
Yeah, the guy who's nuts, crazy. I don't know. I mean, some of the stuff you watch and you're just like, whoa, man, calm down there. You all right? It's like, you all right, man? Maybe you should kind of take it easy for a while. I don't know how you're doing in that head of yours. So Keith Olbermann, I guess he originally was going to quit politics earlier, but then Trump got elected, and so now he has the resistance. Resist. And then so he got back into it with these videos, these GQ videos, and then now he's saying he's quitting again. So here's a little bit of the audio from his latest video that he did where he's saying he's leaving. He's leaving. Here it is.
I'm Keith Olbermann, and this is The Resistance. I'm confident now, even more so than I have been throughout the last year, that this nightmare presidency of Donald John Trump will end prematurely and end soon, and I am thus also confident that this is the correct moment to end this series of commentaries.
No.
I've said what I've had to say. It was as obvious as I made it seem. I give my work everything I can, so it's not like I can dial it back. And I think even this dim-witted world of American political TV reporting, which is still calculating how to get Trump's idiot supporters to watch their networks and still waiting for Trump to pivot, even it can carry this the rest of the way. So I am retiring from political commentary in all media venues. Thank you for all the kind words and all the support. Have fun storming the castle. My work here is done. Matter of fact, so is Trump's. Resist. Remove. Peace.
Are you going to be all right, Tom Benson? Are you going to be okay?
Oh, man. He thinks highly of himself, doesn't he? Holy moly.
It's just, some of the stuff is just like, man, I don't know how to take it. Resist. Remove. Peace. He will be impeached. It's like, I can't tell if it's a joke or if he really takes himself that seriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. So do you think it's over for him forever? You think
No, are you kidding? He loves the attention. There'll be something that gets him out of retirement.
Yeah.
When
Trump doesn't get impeached.
Whenever I run into people like Keith Olbermann and other characters in this world, I kind of wonder what they were like when they were 10 years old. You know?
Yeah.
Cranky little kids.
Is it weird that I picture him just smaller, with the same exact head,
yes.
still has the gray hair,
and a bow tie,
with the bow tie and glasses, just shorter, and he's still, I don't know, I guess back then he would have been railing against Reagan or something.
He was resisting his parents. Are you kidding me?
He's in his bedroom, and he's like, has his resist. My parents have grounded me.
And he's got a placard on his door to his bedroom. Resistance inside. Do not enter.
My parents served me broccoli for dinner, and I just can't do it. I cannot live in this tyranny anymore. We must resist. But soon enough, my parents will not have me anymore because I have turned 18 and will go to ESPN or something. I'm sorry, it just cracked me up picturing little Keith Olbermann in his bedroom resisting his parents. All right, we have one more hour to go and a lot more stuff to get to. I will end the show, by the way, with things that made Yaffee laughy. Yes, there were some things that made me laughy other than Keith Olbermann. So we'll get to that. I want to start the next hour. The definition of conservatism. Always nice to go over that every once in a while, so we'll go over that and much more. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I am your host, Michael Yaffee. One more hour to go. We'll be right back. I look inside of myself. North Korea has fired an intercontinental ballistic missile, ICBM, around 1:30 p.m. on today, the first such launch from the rogue regime in more than 2 months. This is according to Fox News. The missile, believed to be an ICBM by the Pentagon, based on initial assessments, was launched from Saeonni, North Korea, and flew roughly 620 miles before landing in the Sea of Japan. The South Korea's news agency, which first reported the launch, said the missile launch happened around 3 a.m. local time in North Korea. South Korea fired pinpoint missiles into nearby waters to make sure North Korea understands it can be taken under fire by the South. North Korea has been working hard to perfect re-entry technology to one day have a warhead able to survive re-entry into Earth's atmosphere. This ICBM would be able to hit any city within the U.S. if a warhead is able to survive re-entry. President Trump tweeted out about this. He said, after North Korea's missile launch, it's more important than ever to fund our government and military. Dems shouldn't hold troop funding hostage for amnesty and illegal immigration. I ran on stopping illegal immigration and won big. They can't now threaten a shutdown to get their demands. So North Korea has a missile capability to hit us pretty much anywhere. I hope you're all gonna sleep tight tonight. Hope you're all gonna have a nice time. Yeah, in bed. Those who are getting ready for bed right now, nighty night. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee, the voice of reason in a world that is beyond reason. We are on until 10 p.m. here on News Radio 102.5 WFLA. Make sure to catch the podcast as well anywhere that podcasts are available, or on Facebook Live as well. You can like the Beyond Reason Radio Facebook page. So we also have Mr. Tom Benson producing as well. So what do we do about North Korea?
Boy, oh boy. If I had the answer to that, I'd be president, Yeah.
I don't really know either, because
they say they don't want to negotiate until they have weapon capability to strike the United States.
It's a tough call, because I mean, you have the military option. The problem with the military option is a lot of people could die, not necessarily here, but in South Korea. And a lot of people would die probably in North Korea in the attack. But also, I just don't think this country right now wants to go to war. I just don't think they would accept it.
I think eventually it's going to come from within. There's going to be something happen within North Korea that ends his dictatorship.
You know, as crazy as some might say that is, it makes some sense because they've had some issues lately. I mean, you had that video. Did you see that video that came out
of the guy
who was trying to defect?
Sure, yeah.
He was a former soldier, I guess, and he drives to the border and he runs.
Yeah.
And the North Korean soldiers shoot him.
Not only do they shoot him and shoot bullets into the south, they also crossed the DMZ marker and went into South Korea.
Yeah, so they're saying they broke international law. They shot the guy like 6 times. Somehow he survived.
Yeah.
But, I mean, isn't that just insane?
Yeah.
That you have people like that are so desperate that they're willing to risk that kind of threat to escape. So, and there's been other issues like that. There's problems in North Korea with their own people because, you know, they're starving. They have all these problems. There's a huge black market that they're kind of dependent on, but I mean, who knows? So maybe you're right. Maybe that is the answer.
Slowly but surely, there's ways that people are going to find out what's really going on in the world. Not so much as far as it affects their country, but how well other people in other countries, including South Korea, are living. And they're going to start comparing it to what they're living with, and something's bound to happen.
Well, I think the guy who tried to defect, when they finally talked to him, I guess he was listening to radio from South Korea, and that kind of encouraged him to defect. So if there's more people out there who are, like you said, understanding what the rest of the world is like, yeah, maybe we'll see. I don't know. I mean, that's probably a big reason why Kim Jong-un is doing this, because he realizes his country's in a perilous state. He realizes there's a lot of problems within his country with his own people, and he's trying to hold on to power any way he can, and he feels this is the best way to do it.
Well, the best way to do it is you placate the military.
Yeah.
Keep the military happy, and that's why he's doing all this. And as long as he has the support of the military, he stays there. But that has, that only goes so far, I would think.
Right. So, I don't know. I mean, I've liked Trump's approach so far. I think being tough against our enemies is a good thing. We'll see what he does next. Who knows what's going on behind the scenes, but it's, not the best story if you want to get a good night's sleep. So, the biggest threat with them having a nuke is not just like nuking a city or something, but ruining our electric grid. Obviously, our whole infrastructure, a lot of our whole economy is based on our electric grid these days. And you have one EMP strike from a nuclear weapon and then, ruining our electric grid.
Sure.
That's a real threat.
Oh, absolutely.
To our national security.
Look what happens when you get a storm here and you lose electricity for 2, 3 days, 7 days. You feel lost. You can't do a lot of things.
Yeah. So, it's not. It's just a crummy situation. All right, I wanted to move on to something that got me thinking this week. And it was a story in the National Review by Jonah Goldberg. And it got me thinking because he basically asks, what does it mean to be a conservative? And in this age of Trumpism, in this age of the alt-right, in this age of, all these different political divisions, it's hard to know. I bet a lot of people don't really think about what should be the true definition of conservatism. He talks about how there's a lot of division, and then he has 6 things here, which he borrowed from Russell Kirk, who describes what he believes conservatism is. And he says he agrees with this for the most part, and we'll see. He says, number 1, belief in a transcendent order or body of natural law which rules society as well as conscience. True politics is the art of apprehending and applying the justice which ought to prevail in a community of souls. Number 2, affection for the proliferating variety and mystery of human existence, as opposed to the narrowing uniformity, egalitarianism, Yeah, I can I can speak today. Sorry. Uniformity, egalitarianism, utilitarian aims of the most radical systems. Conservatives resist what Robert Graves calls logicalism in society. So a lot of that is, appreciating that society has variety and has differences, that people have differences, that we don't all need to be the same, we don't all need to be equal, and so forth. Number 3, conviction that civilized society requires orders and classes, as against the notion of a classless society. With reason, conservatives have been called the party of order. If natural distinctions are effaced among men, oligarchs fill the vacuum. So it talks about basically there that, a lot of conservatives are law and order. They believe in law and order. Number 4, persuasion that freedom and property are closely linked. This is the big one to me. And this is the left doesn't like a lot of this. They don't like the idea of private property in a lot of situations. In their personal life, they seem to love it. But in a total society, when you read Karl Marx, when you read a lot of the leftist philosophers, the big thing they wanted to do was get rid of private property. But as a conservative, he says that we should believe that freedom and property are closely linked. That if you get rid of private property, you get rid of freedom. Separate property from private possession, it says, and Leviathan becomes master of all, the state. Economic leveling, they maintain, is not economic progress. That's a big one, I think, for conservatives. Talking about the definition of conservatism here. Number 5, faith in prescription and distrust of sophisters, calculators, and economists who would reconstruct society upon abstract designs. I talk to people like this all the time. They want to re-engineer society. They feel like they could do it better, and if they were in power, they could come along and re-engineer society based on abstract designs. It says, custom, convention, and old prescription are checks both upon man's anarchic impulse and upon the innovator's lust for power. So he's basically saying, there's a reason why. One, there's a reason why the Constitution was put in place. There's a reason why we have old conventions. There's a reason why we're called conservative, because we want to conserve the traditions, the conventions that have proven to work throughout history. And we have a healthy distrust of these people. Most of the time, they want to do it through the power of the state to change all that. Number 6, recognition that change may not be solitary reform. Hasty innovation may be devouring conflagration rather than a torch of progress. Society must alter, for prudent change is the means of social preservation, but a statesman must take providence into his calculation, and a statesman's chief virtue, according to Plato and Burke, is prudence. So what he's saying there is basically kind of goes with the last one, number 5, that hasty innovation in terms of society, trying to immediately change society overnight and get rid of our usual traditions, getting rid of our cultural norms, getting rid of our standards is not necessarily the good thing. But the reason why I'm bringing all this up is because I think it's something that we should think about, because I hear so many people, I talk to so many people that say they're conservative, but we all seem to have different definitions of it today. What does it actually mean? I'd love to get a call on that, by the way, 407-916-5400, text to 23680. And a lot of times the terms are screwed up because conservative here in the United States today can mean something totally different than conservative in Europe or conservative in Africa or conservative somewhere else.
Or conservative 50 years ago here in the United States. It means different things, too.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So they say, our founding fathers were classical liberals. And the reason why they were at the time is because the founding fathers were changing from what was the norm at the time into Republican democracy. But in terms for me of what conservatism actually means, and I think a lot of those definitions were right, in terms of the United States, most of it to me is conserving the Constitution and its actual, what it means, what it was intended to mean in the beginning, and believing in free markets and capitalism, and conserving those family traditions, long-held traditions that have been a foundation in our civil society. And I think that could be a lot of it. I don't, there's a lot of other things. It seems like a lot of people are willing to get rid of some of those things if they think it benefits them. So they believe in free markets, except when it comes to the internet, for instance. They believe in traditionalism, except when it comes to whatever it is, marriage or something. And I think there's importance. They believe in the Constitution and the rule of law, except when, I don't know, they want the NSA spying on all of us or something. Then, we need to have that. So conservatism should be to want to conserve all of those things. I know a little bit deep there, but I found that interesting. Thought it would get people thinking, what is the true definition of conservative? And maybe you can weigh in as well. 407-916-5400. Text to 23680. So in the next segment, I have some stories so beyond reason, you just can't make them up. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
Listen to the latest episodes of Beyond Reason. Download the podcast at Spreaker.com. The conscience in your ear telling you the difference between right and wrong. Yaffee is back on the air.
Yes, welcome back to the show, everyone. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I am your host, Michael Yaffee. Once again, your voice of reason. We're on Facebook Live as well. You can check it out, the Beyond Reason Radio Facebook page. You can send me a friend request on Facebook, and or just check out the podcast anywhere podcasts are available. We're on until 10 p.m. tonight here on News Radio 102.5 WFLA. I am going to get to stories so beyond reason you just can't make them up. But I do want to tell you guys about an appearance that I'm going to be making very soon. The new Hope for Kids holiday bike ride, which is coming up in Castleberry. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's for a great cause. So I want you to join me at the 15th annual holiday bicycle ride on Saturday, December 9th in Castleberry. The night bike ride is a unique experience, including games, music, and refreshments. Registration and festivities start at South Seminole Middle School at 4 p.m. Bike ride starts at 6 p.m. You can decorate your bicycle and join in on the fun. Proceeds benefit New Hope for Kids. If you want more information, go to 1025WFLA.com, keyword event. So I will be there.
Terrific.
Now, I'm not sure everything I'm going to be doing as of yet, but there is going to be a bike decoration contest, and there's a possibility I'm going to be one of the judges. So it's got to be good. So, but it actually seems like it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be for a good cause. So I will be there. Go to 1025WFLA.com, keyword events, find out how you can get there. It should be a lot of fun. Come join me. I have a bicycle. Should I decorate my bicycle?
Sure.
How should I decorate the Beyond Reason Yaffee bicycle? I don't know.
Well, you're going to have red, white, and blue ribbons through your wheels. You got to have that,
Yeah. I'm trying to come up with some ideas here. Do
we have any bumper stickers?
I might.
Yeah, there you go.
I might have to hand those out.
Yeah.
So what should the Beyond Reason bicycle should look like for the decorating? I might have to think about that.
I think you should ride a unicycle. That way it would be Beyond Reason.
Well, what would be Beyond Reason is the hospital bill after I fell off that thing.
There you go.
Because I have no idea how to ride one of those things. All right, so this story, you talk about Beyond Reason. It's definitely Beyond Reason. Now, there's actually a couple of stories here. One, and I know some of my friends saw this on social media. I know you saw this as well. It was a big story over Thanksgiving where the Girl Scouts were telling their kids, they were saying to parents, don't force your kids to give hugs. Yes, don't force your kids to give hugs. Now, why? Why? You know, I mean, you have kids, right, Tom Ensign?
Absolutely.
You ever have extended family over and they're young and they're like, hey, go give Grandpa a hug?
We never had that problem in our house.
Oh,
household.
they just love Grandpa.
That's
they love Grandpa
Sure.
Benson. Oh, okay, good. It says, they said,
The problem with giving hugs is that it makes them, when they get older, feel like they have to do something in return to get something.
yeah, this is what the Girl Scouts of America posted.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely Beyond Reason. It says, holidays and family get-togethers are a time for yummy food, sweet traditions, funny stories, and lots of love. But they could, without you even realizing it, also be a time when your daughter gets the wrong idea about consent and physical affection.
Oh, please.
I kid you not. One of my friends was telling me that he had family members that was all into this, saying, no, we're not, this is so right, we're not going to make our kids hug our family. I think of it this way. It says, telling your child that she owes someone a hug, either just because she hasn't seen this person in a while or because they gave her a gift, can set the stage for her questioning whether she owes another person any type of physical affection when they bought her dinner or done something else seemingly nice for her later in life.
You know, people just read too much into these things.
That is exactly right. That is, you hit the nail on the head. People read way too much into this stuff.
You should have a relationship where you want to hug somebody.
Yeah, all it teaches your kid is to be nice to your family.
Yeah. Now,
That's it. That's all it teaches.
Now, if you haven't seen Aunt Rose in 6 years and she comes to the house, give the lady a kiss on the cheek. Huh?
Yeah,
It's not going to kill you.
Crying out loud.
Yeah.
Come on. I have never met anyone who had problems later in life because they would hug their grandparents and think, oh, psychologically, that taught me.
Oh, my goodness.
Physical affection.
Yes.
I would have to do, like, really?
Yeah.
And I'm not much of a hugger. I'm just not. I'm very socially awkward. I just am. But, I mean, I would hug my family, for God's sake. Oh, but it gets even worse, Mr. Tom Benson.
Well, you got to hug. The parents have to hug the children. Maybe not the other way around, but if the parents hug the children, it makes the children feel like they're wanted and loved and the member of the family.
No, hugs are gone, Tom Benson. You can't hug your kids anymore. They will take you away and take your children away.
Well, no wonder girls want to join the Boy Scouts. They hug in the Boy Scouts.
Oh, but it gets even worse, Mr. Benson. It gets even worse. Because this would go beyond Thanksgiving. That was for the Thanksgiving holiday. Well, now somebody says that maybe sitting on Santa's lap is grooming girls for rape.
Oh, jeez.
I kid you not. Angela Chang at Scary Mommy, that just sounds like a fun publication.
Just goes to show you, yeah.
Says, I was filled with shame and regret as I thought about previous years when I would plop my daughter onto Santa's lap and laugh while taking pictures of her frantically trying to get away. I fully admit that I thought it was cute and funny, and in I know she's actually safe kind of way, but she didn't think she was safe. I put my child in a strange man's lap and told her she had to stay there even though she was uncomfortable, so he would give her gifts. And this teaches, and she makes the point, that this contributes to the rape culture. Oh, dear. See, I told you, it's beyond reason. I told you, I cannot make this stuff up. I found this in PJ Media, and the girl Megan Fox who wrote it said this in response. She said, okay, lady, give me a break. It's official. We've gone over the edge of sanity right into crazy town. How can these loons be taken seriously? First, hugging grandma is off limits, and now Santa? What's next? Banning Dr. Seuss?
Oh, yeah.
Apparently that's already in the works.
Sure.
Let me see. And she said, oh, wait, it's already in the works. I didn't even know about this one. Librarian who rejected First Lady's Dr. Seuss books once dressed as Cat in the Hat. That's very interesting. There's a story to that. But yeah, apparently somebody was offended by First Lady's Dr. Seuss books. I don't know. I can't. You know, there's a part in the Justice League movie that I saw where Alfred looks at Batman and goes, I don't recognize this world anymore.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. I feel like Alfred in that movie. I don't recognize this world anymore. It's just crazy. I think her daughter's going to be okay. I think her daughter's going to be okay, even though she had to sit on Santa's lap. I think she'll be fine later in life. I don't know. She's throwing that out there. Maybe I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she'll be scarred forever.
Mm-hmm.
I think she'll be okay. I think so. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
Download the iHeart Radio app and catch the Beyond Reason Radio podcast. This is Orlando's Smart Talk Radio. Beyond Reason Radio continues now.
So there was one story that was so beyond reason you just can't make it up, that Tom Benson that you actually shared with me yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And it's by the same website, PJ Media, that I was getting those other stories from. And it's pretty beyond reason. Now, this is coming from Canada. So maybe it's just up there.
I hope.
Hasn't spread down here to the United States yet, but the Canadian Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario,
mm-hmm.
they wanted to have inclusiveness training for their teachers.
Absolutely.
This is the acronym that they put up of all the different sexes, sexual orientations, I guess.
Now, this would replace what we more commonly know as
LGBT. Oh, Q. It's LGBTQ.
Right.
Yes.
So now it's been reworked to be inclusive of other groups, too.
Oh, yes. We have to be inclusive of all of them,
Of course,
Tom Benson.
yes. Because there's strength through the diversity.
You need some of this training, Tom Benson.
I know I do. I need sensitivity training like you don't believe.
Here is what it is. Here's the acronym. LGGBD. I feel like I have to explain it like the military does. LGG Bravo Dave. LGGBD TTT, 3 T's, not just the one.
Mm-hmm.
IQQ, 2 Q's now. AAPP. I feel like maybe we need to make it into a song or something. LGGBDTTTIQQAAPP.
Like the musical scale. Now, what does all that stand for? Who are we including in that?
All right. So, yes,
in that acronym.
We need to go through all of them. You're right, yeah. Tom Benson. L stands for lesbian.
Okay. We all know what that is.
G stands for gay.
We all know what that is.
The second G, because there's 2 G's now, stands for gender queer.
Okay.
I don't know what that means. B is bisexual.
Mm-hmm.
D is demisexual.
I'm lost. Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Now let's look this up here. What is a demisexual? Come on. Let's see if Google can help us out there. Let's see. What does demisexual mean? Is a person who does not experience sexual attraction unless they form a strong emotional connection with someone.
Sounds like love to me.
Isn't that kind of the way it's supposed to be? Well,
yeah.
I don't even believe. Well, I mean, you can be sexually attracted without being in love, but
I suppose.
Whatever. I don't even believe that's a thing.
All right. So we have what is it again?
Demisexual.
Okay.
Now we have three T's coming up, Tom Edson, so stay with me.
Stand by. Hold on.
L is lesbian, G is gay, G is genderqueer, B is bisexual, D is demisexual, T for transgender.
Of course.
So this is going beyond even sex now, sexual orientation. It's your gender, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So transgender, transsexual.
Okay.
Which I kind of thought those were the same things, but I think transsexual is you've actually had the surgery.
Yeah, right. You've seen the knife.
Get this next one. I don't understand this next one. The last T here. Two-spirit. Two-spirit. What is it?
Two-spirit.
Uh-huh.
Does
it mean you have two spirits? I don't get it. All right, Google. Let's see. Two-spirit mean... refers to a person who has both a masculine and a feminine spirit.
Okay.
Well, I had no idea that was a thing. Oh, man. I need this training, apparently. Okay, so that was the T's. Now we're in the I.
Mm-hmm.
I is intersex.
Mm-hmm.
Q is queer.
Of course.
Now, isn't queer like the same thing as gay?
Not necessarily.
Why not?
Don't ask me the difference. But I've seen the difference.
Gotcha. Okay. The other Q is questioning. Okay, knew that. A is asexual. Now, you know what asexual is?
Non-sexual, basically.
Yeah, non-sexual. I actually met a girl who said she was asexual.
Uh-huh.
She says, I am asexual. I'm not interested in it. She said she would.
Right. She just hasn't found Mr. Right or Ms. Right yet.
She said that she's had boyfriends, and then she would, I guess, if they wanted to, she would just kind of do it, but she's not really interested in it.
Well, that's where she's going wrong to begin with. Doing it.
I don't know. It was very, very interesting. Allies is the other A. So there we have asexual is 1A, allies. Or allies. A-L-L-I-E-S.
I don't know.
Allies? All right, Google.
See what they say. Google's the hip thing. They know. They got the answers. Stand by.
No, I mean, they don't tell me.
Okay, I guess you have to go to the Canadian version of Google.
I mean, they're saying allies like, we have allies in war or an ally.
Sure.
But they don't, I don't know what that is.
All right, that's a mysterious one. All right,
so we need to get back to that one. P is pansexual.
I've heard the term. I have no idea what it means.
Yeah, all right, let's see. It's like the first thing that came up here in Google. Not limited in sexual choice with regard to biological sex, gender, or gender identity. So you're willing to be with
go with the flow.
Boys, girls, boys who think they're girls, girls who think they're boys, boys who have had the surgery, all that. Okay, and the last P. I know this is exhausting. I'm tired. I'm just.
No wonder these people are confused.
The last P is polyamorous. I've heard that one too, and I forget what that one means. So let's go to Google here.
I love everything.
Polyamorous is the philosophy or state of. Well, it's polyamory. Is the philosophy or state of being in love or romantically involved with more than one person at a time.
There you go. I love everyone. Polygamy.
Oh, so we're having that now. We're bringing that back. That was always an argument with allowing one of these things that would eventually lead to that. And people say, no, that's the ridiculous conservative argument. So to recap for everyone, just make sure they're paying attention. Lesbian, gay, genderqueer, bisexual, demisexual, transgender, transsexual, two-spirit, intersex, queer, questioning, asexual, allies, which we still don't know what that one is, pansexual, and polyamorous.
And a partridge in a pear tree. All right.
Yeah, so talk about Beyond Reason. You just can't make it up. Some of those are repetitive too.
Now these people were having a meeting. Is that it?
Yeah.
How would you like to go to that meeting and see who turns up? Holy cow. That's worth the price of admission.
I kind of want to go to that. I kind of want to go to that meeting, actually, to see what in the world was talked. Like, what? Dude, they probably just did what we just did. They probably just explained what everything means. And I wanted to see if everyone was serious in that meeting.
Oh, you bet they are. Oh, yeah, there's no...
They're trying... You don't think they were trying not to laugh?
There's no joy. There's no laughter. It's all seriousness. Sure.
Gotcha. Okay, so another story that's beyond...
My life is more miserable than yours. Let me tell you why. That's exactly where they're going.
So one thing I wanted to get to real quick here, this is a completely different topic, but it is pretty beyond reason, is this whole thing with the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to point out that this evening there was a story breaking that in a victory for a Trump White House, a temporary restraining order to halt the president's pick for acting director of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, Mick Mulvaney, was denied by a judge late Tuesday, though the decision is likely to be appealed. U.S. District Judge Timothy Kelly ruled in favor of Trump. Finally, a court rules in favor of Trump. In his effort to appoint White House Budget Director Mulvaney to lead the Bureau, the nation's top financial watchdog. The ruling comes after a nasty partisan spat that pitted the Trump administration against an Obama-era holdover. And this whole thing is crazy. This story is crazy. So what happened is the holdover leaves early. He says he can just appoint someone.
It supposedly is in their bylaws or whatever that they can do that.
But if you could do that, then apparently, if that's the case, then it would totally get rid of Congress's and the president's. Well, it would get rid of the executive branch's role here. It would totally get rid of the checks and balances. You would literally have a bureaucracy that just runs itself without any checks because they could just keep doing that. That makes no sense. I don't know how that's possible.
That's the government for you there, Sonny.
So I think Trump's probably gonna win this case. There was a story in the National Review, actually. Andrew McCarthy, who's really good on this stuff. He talked about this. He was saying what Cordray has created, that's the last person, is a vacancy. He's not merely absent or unavailable in the common sense, temporary understanding of these words. He is gone. Nonetheless, as the Justice Department's Office of Legal Counsel explains in a persuasive memorandum, even if we assume that English is correct, that a vacancy qualifies as absence or unavailability under the statute, this does not constrain the president's authority to name a different qualified official to the position of acting director. So basically, if there was, they are able to appoint someone in the interim if they are absent for any period of time. So say he has surgery or something and is going to be out for 2 weeks. That was the whole point of the statute.
Correct.
Not that they could resign, appoint a successor, and then keep doing that forever, and the president has no authority over that.
Yeah.
So, but they do this today, and like they both like show up. Both people show up and say they're the director, and it's like, I don't know, like a Saturday Night Live skit or something. Like who's the boss? I don't know.
Who's the boss? That's an old TV show.
It's just crazy. So that's just one of the stories I can't even believe is actually happening. That we're actually having that debate. Of course, the president has the authority to appoint a successor. Jeez Louise. All right. I'm going to end the show with things that made Yaffee laughy. If you hadn't had enough laughs this hour, I have more. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
If you like Beyond Reason Radio, well, make sure to show it by liking the Facebook page at facebook.com/Beyond Reason Radio. The voice of reason in a world that is beyond reason is back now.
Oh, it is that time of the show. Everyone's favorite part of the show. Where we get to have some fun. It is that time of the show of things that made Yaffee laughy. So, Tom Benson, have you heard of manspreading?
Yes, I have.
So you know what manspreading is?
Yes.
So, I mean, put simply,
if you're on a bus or subway, you part your legs and take up as much room as you want to.
Yes, and I guess a lot of men kind of sit like this.
Sure.
And feminists hate it, apparently. They think it's proof of the patriarchy in our society of men taking over.
Maybe it's just rude, you know? Okay, go ahead.
So what they want to do is they want to implement women spreading. So feminists seek to combat manspreading by taking up more room, they say. I found this from the Daily Wire. So one feminist said this. So for the past decade, I've been women spreading everywhere. Oh, jeez. On television, on the tube, and on my mom's dining table. Naturally, I now wear trousers most of the time, and my only rule is to make sure I'm always aware of the people around me. As much as I want to make a point, I refuse to become like the entitled man-spreaders who force women to contort themselves into tiny spaces. Unlike them, I only spread out if I have the space to do so. But they're saying what should happen in response. I did not I did not realize this was such an epidemic out there, that manspreading was such a problem. I mean, we're in Florida, so we don't really have buses and
that much in the way of public
transportation. We have buses, but we don't have the trains, the subway.
Subways, right.
I guess that's where this has been. Is this really such an epidemic that women have to fight back against manspreading? Jeez. Okay, so there's that one. And then there's this story, which I thought was pretty good. I don't know if you heard about this, Tom Benson, but Arby's, the fast food chain, which I like Arby's a lot, actually. One of the fast food chains, or one of the only fast food chains that sells mozzarella sticks, and they're good.
They just bought Buffalo Wild Wings, by the way.
Exactly. That's what I'm getting to. They bought Buffalo Wild Wings for $2.4 million.
Million or billion?
You know, this says million, but I think
it's billion.
Yeah, I'm reading off of Mediaite, but now, you know, that doesn't sound right. That seems like a really low number. Hold on,
Yeah. You and I could put that in our MasterCards.
Yeah, it should be billion. There was a typo there.
Yeah.
But the funny thing though about this is Twitter went crazy with things about this. So and it's kind of mean to Arby's and Buffalo Wild Wings, but it's still pretty funny. Even though I like Arby's a lot.
We got the meats.
I like that, man. They're not afraid to just stand up for meat, for God's sake. One person said Arby's buying out Buffalo Wild Wings has created a massive horizontal monopoly that will severely affect the toilet paper industry.
Say what?
It'll affect the toilet paper industry.
Why?
Because everyone's going to be eating all their food and getting the,
Please.
One person says, cannot stop thinking about the possibility of Arby's and Buffalo Wild Wings offering a beef and cheddar buffalo wing hybrid. Sounds amazing. Hope they do that. Let's see. Buffalo Wild Wings just acquired by Arby's for $2.9 billion in what some are calling the diarrhea deal of the century.
Oh, please.
I like Arby's, so... It says your Christmas dinner, one person said your Christmas dinner meal planning just got a whole lot easier. Recently divorced dads. So there you go. Some people are making fun of that, but we'll see what happens. It's kind of a weird buy. Like, why does Arby's want Buffalo Wild Wings? It's too, I don't know. But very interesting. All right. Hope you enjoyed the show. Everyone, if you missed any of the show, make sure to catch the podcast anywhere the podcasts are available. Just go on the iHeartRadio app or make sure to like the Beyond Reason Radio Facebook page, and well, have a good night, and I'll catch you guys next time.
Some kind of conviction. Oh, well,